I'm not an investor. People always tell me, you should have your money working for you. I decided I'll do the work. I'm going to let the money relax. You know what I mean? Because you send your money out there working for you. A lot of times, it gets fired. You go back there, what happened? I had my money. It was here. It was working for me. Yeah, I remember your money. Showing up late, taking time off. We had to let him go.
So we hear what Jerry Seinfeld has to say about working his money harder, Dallas.
I never thought I'd see the day where you disagreed so passionately with Jerry Seinfeld. He's always been a hero of yours and an idol, and you think that he's completely wrong here.
Look, he's wrong here, and not only that, he's a hypocrite. I've looked into what he invests into. So Jerry works his money hard. Obviously, that was one of the. That was actually the end. The clip that we just played was the end of the stock tip.
Yep,
which we've done a podcast on.
Yep.
And in that particular Seinfeld episode, Jerry invests into Sandrax, one company, a speculative company, and he loses a lot of money in doing that. So the clip is it's quite funny. I love the clip.
Yeah.
Where he's referring to money as a human being, basically.
Yes, yeah. Which you've done many times on this podcast.
Which we've done.
Yeah.
Which we've done, and we love to do that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to I bang this drum all the time. And when I die, I hope that I'm known for saying, and I've looked it up, I can't find any evidence that anyone else has invented this saying.
Yeah.
I hope that I'm known for the saying that when you stop getting dressed and going to work, your money now has to get dressed and go to work for you.
Yep.
So think of that in those terms. The day that you retire and you stop getting dressed and going to work, your money now has to get dressed and it has to go to work for you because it's the one that's bringing in the income.
It is.
So I disagree with what Jerry said.
Yeah.
Now, not only that, Jerry disagrees with what Jerry said. I looked at what he invests into.
I feel like I should defend all comedians here, where it's like they're not saying what they actually think. No. They're just saying what's funny, which is it's a great line. But so what's Jerry do?
Well, he recently sold a ski chalet for $14 million that he bought for $7 million. Okay. He puts it into a productive enterprise. Netflix paid $500 million for Seinfeld to buy the rights to Seinfeld. You spoke about this before about enterprise.
Yes.
So you spoke about transferring work and enterprise into money.
Yeah.
What Jerry has done has become an expert. I don't want to draw comparisons to all of us and Jerry Seinfeld. Obviously, he's in the like a very, I guess, specific class of person that's been successful.
Yes.
However,
the same thing applies.
The same thing applies. So he's actually worked his money hard to be able to. He's not letting it sit in the bank. He would have an element of money in the bank, I imagine.
Yep.
But he's used productive enterprise, a la his comedy and his show, which some say, and I agree with, the greatest show of all time.
Yeah.
So he's turned that into money.
Yeah.
He's turned that into money. So, look, for you and I and the listeners here, what we are talking about is that for us, we are talking about putting our money in productive enterprise to generate enough of a return. So we know that if we follow Jerry's skit at the end of that, if we put all of our money in cash and fixed interest, forget the fact that we're actually a lender here. We are a lender to other people that are using that money and putting that to productive enterprise and paying, arbitraging that and paying us pittance in terms of the return that they're getting on that money.
Yeah.
What's actually happening is that the rates of return for being a lender right now are historically low.
Yeah.
And I think are the most volatile thing that we've ever seen. In the 80s, we could have $100,000 in a term deposit, and that would have paid us back then $14,000, $15,000 a year in interest. Fast forward to 2022, $100,000 in a term deposit pays us $500 or $350 a year. So I think that's the most volatile thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've never seen volatility so much in the income that's thrown
from that thing,
from a term deposit.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's highly risky. Yes. I think that's volatile. Yes. I think that's all of those things.
Yeah.
What we're talking about, and the pure black and white of it right now is that you just won't have enough. You just won't have enough. The average retiree won't have enough. In fact, not the not average retiree, the top 10% of retirees by net worth wouldn't even have enough to sit all their money in term deposits.
No, that's right.
What we're talking about here is actually putting your money to use.
Yes.
You have to be careful because you don't want to put all of that into a Zentrax.
Yes.
and lose that.
Yeah.
We bang the drum all the time about diversifying across the largest 200 companies in Australia, the largest 1,500 companies in the world. It doesn't have to be exactly that way, but it's nice and diversified. We would consider that highly volatile at times, very predictable over the medium to longer term.
Yep.
And we've done podcasts on that. If you invested at what most would consider the worst possible time, which is 1 month before the 87 stock market crash, which is a 45% drop in 3 days, and you took your money out some 30 years later in April, May of 2020, when the markets had fallen 37%. Some people would have thought you wouldn't have done very well out of that. We've done the numbers on that. The rates of return on average per year have been above 10% if you've been invested in the largest 500 companies in America. So we're talking there about very, very much predictability over the longer term, volatility in the short term.
That's, I think, my 2 points that you sort of touched on, I guess, just to reiterate or to clarify this. There's two separate parts, I think, of when I listened to that clip, which is pretty clever because it's number one is that the concept of I'll go to work and let my there's a different sort of thing that we used to talk about often with we had when we used to work with younger clients, and I think maybe it's a generational thing. We'd often have a 30-year-old come in and go, I've worked really hard and I've saved up my $10,000, and they probably hadn't really saved that hard. If they've got $10,000 over many years of work, they've probably lived a pretty good lifestyle as well. But they go, I've got $10,000, and I need to. What's the most important thing that I should do with that $10,000? And the answer, which is fairly glib, is just whack the $10,000 into an index fund and go back to work, because that's what you really need to do, is go and focus more on, as we said, the work and enterprise part of your life. Is you need to go and develop your career, your earning capacity, your work, your enterprise, and transfer that into money. Yeah, like we need to get the $10,000 working for you, but it's not going to make that big of a difference to you right now. That's, I think, the big shift is for people. If you're in your 50s now, you've sort of, that's, I think, the big turning point for people is that realization that I can't just keep going to work forever. It's not going to happen that way. I can't, Jerry's joke about, I'll let my money be lazy. I'll keep going to work. If you're 53, you're probably starting to feel physically that you may be starting to slow down a little bit. And looking ahead 10, 15 years, you can see people that are 10, 15 years old and you go, well, some of them are not physically able to keep going to work. And even the ones that can keep going to work probably don't really want to be working as hard as what we are now. So that part of it doesn't really make sense. You just can't. Even if you wanted your money to be lazy and you do the work, you can't rely on that. You can't rely on that as a retirement strategy. We've talked about it before. Is working forever is not a retirement strategy.
No,
it's just not. It's not something that you can rely on. It's not something that you can be sure is going to happen. The second part of that, I think, is that it is noticeable, as you say, that this clip of Jerry talking about the money being lazy and you going to work is at the end of the episode where they are not. He's not talking about investing. He's talking about gambling. He's talking about speculating. He's doing.
Right.
I've taken this money and I've bought this, biotech company that I thought was going to go to the moon, and now it's crashed. So that's probably the differentiation that I'd make there. Is definitely we're not saying you should you don't go to work, your money goes to work, and by putting it to work we mean go and invest in one individual company or into some high flying U-Butte stock tip. What we're suggesting there is, as you said, take your money, go and invest it thoughtfully and carefully in a very diversified portfolio of the biggest and best companies in Australia and around the world, and then forget about it, and then go back to work, and then you keep going to work, you keep doing your thing. Let your money be working for you in the background, so that when it comes time that you can't keep going to work and you have to let your money do the work for you, you're in a position where you've got enough money doing enough work for you that you can let that go ahead and do it for you.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 financial advisors. For more information and resources, visit the Money Over 50 website, mo50.com.au. We look forward to catching up again soon.